Happy Monday, world. Happy week before Christmas. Happy Monday before Christmas. As y'all coming in, put your locations in the comments. Locations in the comments as y'all coming in. Locations in the comments. Locations in the comments. As many of you know, Turning Point USA had their annual event over this past weekend, and a few things happened there. One of them in particular we're going to talk about here today. So as y'all coming in, locations in the comments, locations in the comments, everybody. And then we will get to it. Let's see. As y'all coming in, put your locations in the comments, folks. We got a lot to get to. We got to talk about something that happened this past weekend at the Turning Point USA event and fest. Any of you go? Any of you go to the event? Somebody put me in the comments if you were actually there, if you were physically in the building at the AmFest. If you were there, put your locations in the comment. I mean, not your locations, but put the word me in the comments if you were there. And let's see. Anybody was there? All right. Locations in the comments, everybody. Locations in the comments. Let me see. We are live on Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. Live on YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Live on. We're supposed to be live on X. Let me make sure. We are live on X. Good morning, X. We are live on LinkedIn. Good morning, LinkedIn. My name on LinkedIn, X, Rumble, and YouTube is at Dre All Day. Live on Facebook at Work on Your Game University. If you're a Facebook user, Work on Your Game University. We are live on Instagram at Dre Baldwin. Good morning, KingWorks21. Good to see you in here consistently. And we are live on TikTok at Work on Your Game. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh, wait a minute. Did I say Benjamin Netanyahu? I meant to say Ben Shapiro. I'm sorry. I don't know why thinking of Ben Shapiro made me think about Ben Netanyahu. I meant to say Ben Shapiro, not Ben Netanyahu, but Ben Shapiro. But I don't know. Is there a difference? We're going to talk about Benjamin Shapiro. Benjamin Shapiro gave a speech at Turning Point USA's AmFest this past week. How many of you saw the speech? How many of you saw the speech? Put me if you saw the speech that Ben Shapiro gave, and I'm going to shout a few people out in the comments in a second as well. But if you saw the speech, put me in the comments. Nikki from Connecticut, good morning. Scott Young checking in from North Carolina. Murphy the Mutt, Bristol, Tennessee. Angela, Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Lisa Ann said, engineer, good morning. Are you an engineer? Good morning. Marky Man checking in from Sacramento. Stuart Winslow rowing to Spartanburg, South Carolina. Shout out to everybody out there rowing. Carol Ann Collins, Newburgh, New York. Amy Lynn, good morning. Lisa Ann said, oh, location, not vocation. Yeah, not vocation, location. But now we know you're an engineer. Thanks for letting us know. Annie AFF from Kentucky. Marky Mark from Pinellas Park, Florida. Shout out to Tampa Bay. Jackie, good morning from Florida. Where in Florida you at? Kristen, good morning. Checking in from Delaware. You say you love the tie. Thank you. And let me see. Manny from Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania. And this is for Kristen for loving the tie. Oh, my sound didn't work. There it is. Thank you, Kristen. Manny from Mount Pocono. Shout out to the Poconos. Billie Jean checking in from Indiana. Mo MD. Is that Muhammad? Leah Tifton, Georgia. Good morning to you. Murphy the Mutt said some of it. It was only 20 minutes. You only saw some of it? Angelica, good morning. Happy Monday. Tony Chapa checking in from Dallas. Jackie from Fernandina Beach, Florida. I don't know where that is. Moose from Mark. Moose is Mark, Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's your name or if that's the town. Angelica checking in from Jersey. Suzanne in Daytona Beach. Shout out to Daytona Beach. Shout out to MTV Spring Break. They used to do it. Daytona Beach would be one of the places in Panama City Beach. So Ben Netanyahu, we're talking about here today. I mean, Ben Shapiro. Sometimes I make that mistake. He gave a speech at Turning Point USA's event. Tez NY checking in from VA. Good morning. He gave a speech at Turning Point USA's national conference called the AmFest. This is probably the biggest, other than the Republican National Convention. It is the biggest event in the conservative movement that happens. And this one happens, I think it happens every year. Whereas the RNC is usually only every 4 years before we find out who is going to be nominated for the presidential election by the Republican Party. So Ben Netanyahu gave a speech there. Excuse me, I keep saying Netanyahu. Ben Shapiro gave a speech there, and it was problematic, in my opinion, on several levels. Those of you how many of you heard the speech? How many of you actually saw the speech? Put yes or no if you heard the speech that Ben Shapiro gave at Turning Point USA. Put yes if you did hear the speech. Put no if you did not. It was 20 minutes long. How many of you actually heard the speech? You can find it on X. It's on, well, you're not going to find it on TikTok. I don't think you can do a 20-minute video on TikTok, but it is on X. It is on YouTube. It's on a bunch of people reposted on YouTube. It's probably on Rumble as well. So some of you said parts. How are y'all getting hearing parts of a 20-minute speech? Y'all just saw clips? I guess you saw clips. Well, I would suggest after this is over, all of you go listen to the entire speech. I'm going to break down several pieces of this speech because there was a lot of parts of this that I just wasn't feeling what Ben Shapiro did. And this has nothing to do with how I feel about Turning Point USA. I'm generally indifferent to them. It's not about how I feel about what's going to happen with the conservative movement. I am generally indifferent to that as well, as I've made clear to you all many times. But his speech, it was, first of all, even for Ben Shapiro, who has his own style. It was confrontational, and some people call it even divisive. I don't know if you call a speech divisive. I guess in some ways, I guess you can. It was a very confrontational speech, that we can say, because Ben Shapiro was calling out names. Ben Shapiro was on his Tupac Shakur calling out names in this speech because he was calling people out. He was calling out conservatives by name, telling them what he had a problem with, and just basically laying it out. He was laying the gauntlet and being real clear, directing to the camp the shots he was firing here. And he was calling out people who were actually at the conference. So first of all, I got to give Ben Shapiro respect for saying names, calling out names and calling them to the carpet in the same event in which you're at. I show him respect for that. And I don't know what the logistics are, if he had to run into any of these people or anything, or if anything was going to happen anyway. But he did call out names. So we know Charlie Kirk passed away 3 months ago. Now, this is in Phoenix. And there was a packed and emotionally charged crowd. I think Ben came up right after Erica Kirk spoke. She spoke at the beginning, and then Ben Shapiro was like the opening, I guess you could call it the opening keynote. It wasn't really a keynote, but the opening speech. And he framed his remarks as a defense of Charlie Kirk's legacy and of Turning Point USA's new leadership under Charlie Kirk. This is the frame that Ben laid. He did do that. This is all true. He came out as, I'm defending Charlie Kirk. That was his position. Now, whether you think he did a good job of it or not, it's a different story. And he said, I'm defending the new leadership of Turning Point USA, which is now, as we all know, under his Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk. Now, again, whether you think Ben Shapiro did a good job of that or not is a different story, but that's what he believed he was doing. And he quickly pivoted into a very aggressive, what some people will call a scorched earth approach. Scorched earth is when you just go at everybody as if you don't care. He called out several people. He called out Candace Owens, of course. He called out Tucker Carlson. He called out Megyn Kelly. He called out Steve Bannon. I think those are 4 names he mentioned. And he accused them of a whole bunch of things and basically generally not doing the job the way that he believes they should be doing the job, as far as journalists or reporters or podcasters or whatever we want to call these people, this influencers, whatever you want to call these people. That's what he called out. And he says that conservative movement faces an existential threat, not only from the left, of course, but also from the people on the inside. So he was, as you can see, he was calling out conservatives. He wasn't calling out people on the left. He was calling out other conservatives. And he's basically accusing them of using their prioritizing, getting influence, getting clicks, making money over truth and what he considers to be, Ben Shapiro considers to be moral clarity. That's a tricky one right there because everybody's morals are pretty flexible when it comes to their own self-interest, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, there was a lot of applause that came from the speech. I don't mean applause like from the audience. I mean, well, he did get applause from the audience, but there was a lot of applause that came from people in the conservative movement who are aligned with whatever Ben Shapiro calls himself being aligned with, i.e. supporters of Turning Point USA, supporters of Erica Kirk, and claiming that this is all in defense of Charlie Kirk, which is a appeal to morality, appeal to emotion that I'm really starting to get tired that people are just using, well, I'm defending Charlie Kirk, so whatever I say, you can't question it because Charlie Kirk's dead and Charlie Kirk was the leader, and et cetera, et cetera. Ben Shapiro went and did a little bit more of this. There was a lot of applause. There was a lot of backlash. And that's the reason why we're talking about this. So clearly, in the conservative movement right now, there's a lot of, what do you want to call it? It's not complete harmony, let's just say, within the conservative movement right now. And before we even get into these points of breaking down what he said, because there are some things he said that I just didn't agree with his frames. It's not even so much about who he was talking about or what the merits of the point is, just the frames that he used. And I'm going to break them all down here today. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a few TED Talks. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our job here is to help you master communication, both internal, that's you communicating with yourself, and external, you're communicating with the world. That is not only what you put out, i.e. what you say and what you write and publish, but also what you take in, what you read, absorb, and notice. Most of that being things that people do not say. Nonverbal is 85% of communication. Most people don't quite understand that. They act as if they don't understand it, and or they have not made it conscious enough yet that you can actually use what you're picking up on nonverbally or what you're putting out nonverbally. We help people master that. You can text me at my number, 305-384-6894. Text me the word power. You can learn more about that. Or you can text me the word mastermind. You can learn more about working with me. Again, number 305-384-6894. Now, Ben's positioned his speech as a moral defense of Charlie Kirk's legacy and of Erica Kirk's leadership rather than just giving a generic political address. So let's just start right here. Emotional, damn it. The reason I'm giving Ben Shapiro the appeal to emotion fallacy frame here is because this has been happening ever since Charlie Kirk died, is that every person who is making some point that they want to go unchallenged or they're trying to make it as unchallengeable as possible, they are framing it around, I am defending the legacy of Charlie Kirk. And since Charlie Kirk is dead, the only people whose names can be mentioned with impunity and not really be criticized as a general point, if you get the spirit of my point, the direction of my point, are people who are passed away because they're not allowed to defend themselves and not allowed. So most of the time, people don't bash dead people. Most of the time, if it's a person who was generally beloved, as Charlie Kirk was, especially people on the right. Nobody on the right has anything negative to say about Charlie Kirk. You notice that, right? Nobody on the right is saying anything negative about Charlie Kirk. Therefore, if you're speaking to people on the right and you want to say something that nobody is going to challenge you on, all you had to do is wrap it up in, I'm saying this as a defense of Charlie Kirk because nobody wants to, by proxy, criticize Charlie Kirk. Everybody notice that? So if you haven't noticed that, start noticing it. You'll notice a whole lot of people on the right are using this exact same frame. I'm defending Charlie Kirk, therefore don't say anything about me. Erica Kirk was married to Charlie Kirk, therefore you can't criticize Erica Kirk because then by extension, you're criticizing Charlie Kirk. You can't criticize Turning Point USA because Turning Point USA is what Charlie built. Therefore, you can't criticize Turning Point USA because that's like criticizing Charlie Kirk. Notice people are using this over and over again. Emotional, damn it. And see, this is the problem. All right, I have a problem with that because what you're doing is what you're trying to do is make your argument unchallengeable or unfalsifiable because you can always hide behind, hey, Charlie Kirk. Hey, Charlie Kirk. Don't criticize me. It's Charlie Kirk. I don't like when people do this. Ben Shapiro just did it this past week. I think his speech was on either Thursday or Friday, whatever day he spoke. So he framed his speech around Charlie to make this into some type of moral obligation. Then he went to the appeal to morality card. Hey, I'm just morally defending Charlie Kirk. Therefore, again, don't come at me. Don't go at me because all I'm doing is what I'm supposed to do and defending the guy who brought us all here. And again, doing it on the Turning Point USA stage was a smart thing for Charlie Kirk to do, because again, he puts himself in a position where who the hell can challenge me? Because I'm defending Charlie Kirk on the stage that Charlie Kirk built. You can't challenge me on anything that you're saying. That makes all of my arguments, again, unchallengeable. It's non-negotiable. Now, the tone and delivery were unusually personal, even for Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro doesn't seem to have a problem going at stuff and people, but doing it on this stage at this time in this setting as one of the opening speakers was, again, unusually aggressive for him, being that, again, it risks the perception that Shapiro used Charlie Kirk's death as a cover for settling long-running ideological and personal scores, which is why I found this troubling. I found this speech troubling not because of anything, not any one specific thing that Ben Shapiro said, but because Charlie Kirk's whole thing. Yes, Charlie Kirk would go at people at times, and he would have his confrontations with people at whatever time. So let's just say whatever with that. Ben Shapiro framed his speech as, this is all about Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. So he's setting the tone there. He's putting the primer on the wall, letting you know this is all about Charlie. And then after he sets that frame, remember I told y'all that in politics it's all about framing. He sets the frame that this is all about Charlie and in defense of Charlie. And then he goes on to start bashing people. And then if you bash him back, then, hey, you're bashing the legacy of Charlie because I gave this whole speech in defense of the legacy of Charlie. So again, pay attention to how people use these tricks. And Ben Shapiro's a pretty smart guy. All right, he's pretty smart, his communication. He knows exactly what the hell he's doing. And that's what he did here in this speech. And he used it as a cover-up so that it'd be harder to bash him back because he said, hey, this whole thing is about Charlie and this whole thing is about Erica. This is using the emotions. So this event called AmFest, short for America Fest, it traditionally emphasizes building the team. This event is like the Republican National Convention. At the RNC, you don't see a bunch of conservatives dissing and bashing other conservatives because the whole point of the RNC is let's all get on the same page so that we can all go and defeat the enemy. Even if we have our differences internally, let's get on the same page now so that we can defeat the enemy, i.e. the Democrats, in this upcoming election. Even if you don't like the candidate, even if you don't like the way things are going, even if things aren't going great for you with some other people in this room, we are all on the same team. We got to go beat them. This is what the Democrats do at the DNC. We got to go beat them. Even if we don't agree on things, we got to go beat them. Let's get on the same page so we can go on attack. So Ben Shapiro doing this on Charlie Kirk's platform it seemed out of the ordinary. Of course it is, because Charlie Kirk's not around anymore. And it looks like Turning Point USA is okay with this because they had him there. And I think they had an idea what he was going to say. And he goes up there and says it. Now, again, he was launching internal attacks on the opening night of the event. And this was not a consolidation of support, which is why I've already told you all. I did this live about a month ago. The Republican Party and conservatives and MAGA, whatever you want to call it, they have a problem right now. Number one, the Democrats are coming for those congressional seats. And number two, there's a whole lot of infighting going on here. And number three, the biggest event other than the RNC on the conservative side just happened. And it was a whole bunch of people going back and forth with each other. So Ben attacked these people, and a bunch of people he attacked, they came on stage after him, and they responded to his attacks. Tucker Carlson came on stage. Steve Bannon was on stage. Megyn Kelly was on stage. Candace Owens was the only person who wasn't there. And this is problematic for the political right in general, let alone Turning Point USA and Mr. Shapiro. Now, Shapiro attacked Candace Owens for the unproven conspiracy theories. We know. We ain't got to talk about Candace Owens that much here. There was a comedian. What was that comedian's name? Y'all remember that? Did y'all see the comedian who was making jokes about Candace Owens? Anybody know what that guy's name was? Since Candace's name came up. Does anybody know who that was? What's the name of that comedian who was on there? And I saw clips of his bit where he was making some jokes about Candace Owens. Anybody know the name of that? Rob Snyder. Yes, thank you, Gigi. Rob Snyder comes up and he makes some jokes about Candace Owens, and he's like the comic relief. Here's the issue with Rob Snyder. Issue with Rob Snyder is that he told some jokes about Candace Owens. Those are the ones that it was like a minute long. It goes viral. People laughing at the joke about Candace Owens. Rob is a comedian. Making a joke about Candace Owens right now in late 2025 at a Turning Point USA event is like making a joke about Donald Trump at a Democratic National Convention. Number one, it requires no creativity. Number two, it requires no real comedic skill. Number three is easy, low-hanging fruit. And number four, anybody in the audience could have made the exact same jokes. Turning Point USA, I'm assuming, paid Rob Snyder to speak at the event and give his jokes. I could have done that, or anybody who was in the audience at AmFest. I was not there. Anybody who was in the audience at AmFest could have told the same jokes he told about Candace Owens for half the price, half the fee, and they would have flew coach instead of flying first class. All right, I'm throw that last one in there as a joke. But what's the point of making a joke about Candace Owens now and here? It's like, all right, we got it. We know. Nobody likes Candace Owens, and make a joke about Candace Owens. Like there's no comedic value in doing that. Again, just like there's no comedic value in making a joke about Donald Trump at a Democratic event. We already know everybody doesn't like it. So I just thought it was cheap. I get you want to diss Candace Owens, you don't like Candace Owens, but is that what you got, Rob? You're a comedian. You're a professional comedian. That's the best joke you could come up with, is this low-hanging fruit. Again, anybody in the audience could have came up with that joke. So what do we need you for as a professional comedian? We need you to elevate the level of comedianism, if that's not a word, I just made it up. We need you to elevate the level of comedianism in the room. You didn't do that. Again, everybody in the room could have came up with that joke. ChatGPT could have came up with that. All right, dissing Candace Owens right now at a Turning Point USA event. So Rob Snyder, give the money back. Whatever fee they paid you, give it back. Now, by singling out Candace Owens so forcefully, without her present to respond, I'm generally not a fan of that, but they've been sniping at each other for a while now. Candace and Ben. Candace dissed Ben on her show on whatever, I think it was Friday, because I think Ben gave his speech on Thursday, and then Candace put a show out later on Thursday that I listened to on Friday, or maybe she put it out on Friday. I don't remember. Whatever day she put it out. She dissed Ben Shapiro, and she kind of went scorched earth back on him, but he did throw the first punch at her. So he reinforced claims that establishment conservatives will silence dissent rather than debate it openly. This is another problem that the Republican Party, political right, MAGA, conservative, whatever you want to call yourselves, conservatives, this is another problem. Candace Owens is a clearly announced conservative. She is not MAGA anymore. She's not really messing with Trump anymore. She doesn't mess with Israel, but she is still a conservative. And she has a very powerful voice on the political right. She has a lot of followers and fans on the political right. For Ben Shapiro to be the mascot for this, because he's not the only one. Of course, we know. If you have X, you know there's a million people on X, and I'm only exaggerating a little bit, dissing Candace Owens, and they've been dissing her every day for about the last 6 weeks. The issue is that a lot of the dissing of Candace Owens plays on morality, not plays on logic. They're not saying logically you're wrong. Yes, there are people who are saying Candace is logically wrong, and they're presenting their arguments. But a lot of the big names are saying, Candace, you are morally wrong. And they don't say it, but emotionally wrong. You're emotionally wrong because you're attacking the organization that Charlie Kirk built. That is an appeal to emotion. So you can't attack Turning Point USA because Charlie was the one who built it. He's dead. Therefore, you can't diss anything that Charlie ever looked at or touched or breathed on. Therefore, you're attacking Charlie Kirk. Emotional, that's an appeal to emotion. Then they say, well, you can't say anything about Erica Kirk because she's a grieving widow and she's the mother of Charlie Kirk's kid. And therefore, if you say anything about Erica Kirk or anything that has to do with Erica Kirk, you are therefore dissing the person who is married to Charlie, and you can't do that because we all love Charlie. Emotional, damn it. Then they say, well, Charlie Kirk was about this, this, and this. And if you do anything that Charlie Kirk was allegedly not about, then that means you're kind of dissing Charlie Kirk and you are destroying his legacy. So you can't do that either. Emotional, damn it. Then they say, well, Candace, you're only mad because you wanted to be married to Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk got married to Erica instead of getting married to you. So you're just hating, and you're trying to destroy everything Charlie Kirk built because you're hating and you're mad that he didn't marry you. Emotional, damn it. I can go on and on. I'm not going to continue. Y'all get the point. Point here is that people are using, and I said this like 2 months ago, a lot of people on the political right are using Charlie Kirk's image, his name, image, and likeness as a shield against any argument that they don't want to be challenged on. So if anybody says anything about what Turning Point USA is doing, like Candace has been doing for the last 3 months, or anybody says anything about Turning Point USA, or anybody challenges the direction of Turning Point USA or the decisions that they are making, has been properly, not properly, but perfectly, expertly framed it at the beginning of that event this past week. He's framing it as nobody can challenge Turning Point USA because this is Charlie's organization and Erica's running it now, and I'm going to lay the groundwork that anybody criticizing anything this organization does is from from this point forward, you're wrong because morally and emotionally, we all have to stand behind the same thing. That is the frame that Ben Shapiro laid out without saying it in so many words. And Ben Shapiro is pretty good with his words, so he knew exactly what he was doing. Now, Shapiro's criticism of Tucker Carlson. This focused on platform and responsibility. This one is a bigger problem than the Candace Owens one because everybody's dissing Candace Owens, so that ain't really a big deal. Dissing Candace Owens is not news. What he did with Tucker Carlson was far worse, and this one is really why we're talking about this.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Here's what he said about Tucker Carlson. He said that Tucker Carlson, he talked about platform responsibility. Y'all know what that is? Platforming. And Tucker Carlson spoke after Ben on the same day, and he brought up this word platforming. First of all, platforming, as Tucker said, platforming, or the platform rather, platform is a noun, not a verb. We have made this word platform into a verb. Do y'all know what that means, platform? Platform means to put somebody on if you have a stage, letting somebody else come on your stage. So, for example, Turning Point USA called me and said, Dre, come speak at our event, and I did it. Then TPUSA has therefore platformed me. So offering someone to be on a stage that you have control of where other people will see it, and they will only see that person in that space because you invited them on. That's called platforming. So if I have a podcast and I invite somebody on my podcast, I'm platforming you. And if you invite me on your platform or your podcast, you are platforming me. So what Ben Shapiro said, and he was pretty clear on this, is that you are responsible for platforming whoever you platform. If you platform someone who is saying things that are morally wrong, then that makes you morally wrong, and you need to be called out and you need to be held responsible for that. I 100% disagree with this frame. 100% I disagree with this.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Here's why I disagree. Back in the day, those of you old enough to remember, there were two top TV talk shows. One of them was Oprah Winfrey, and there was another person. Anybody know who that other person was? The two top TV talk shows, let's talk like the late 80s going into the early 90s. There were two people. Oprah was one. Everybody knows Oprah, and there was another person. Does anybody know who that other person was? And I'm bringing him up for a reason. Phil Donahue. Leah said it. No, not Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil ain't been around that long. No, not Jerry Springer. No, Jerry Springer was slapstick comedy. No, Phil Donahue. Phil Donahue was the other guy. Ricky Lake was out too, but Ricky Lake was not. She was more surface level. The top two were Oprah and Donahue. Now, the reason I'm bringing them up is this. Oprah and Phil Donahue, if you remember, they used to bring people on the show who were highly controversial. People who had there were people who would come on the Oprah show, and especially the Phil Donahue show, who had opinions that today those people would never get on a TV show. They would never get booked. They would never get booked on The View. They wouldn't get booked on whatever shows they're out there. I don't know. Would they come on Piers Morgan? Probably not. Probably not Piers Morgan. The kind of shows they might end up on Tucker, but they wouldn't be on Piers. They wouldn't be on The View. What's another big TV talk show these days? They wouldn't be on Good Morning America or any of these shows. But Oprah and Phil Donahue used to have these people on. They would have white supremacists on the show. They would have kids who were completely out of control who would just beat up other kids. They would have people who just had these outlandish views of the way life worked. They would have them on the show. And Oprah and Phil Donahue and they had live studio audiences, for those of you who remember the show. They would have them on the show, and they would ask them questions. They would have like serious conversations with them. It wouldn't be this gotcha shit like Piers Morgan does, not the gotcha conversation or the Breakfast Club or none of that nonsense. They would have a serious conversation with them, find out what these people really think, challenge them on what they were saying, get their feedback. They would let the audience ask them questions. And again, this would be serious questioning. We're not talking the stuff that people do these days where you're just trying to get a clip on social media, because there was no social media back then. You had to have a full conversation. People got to listen to the whole thing in context. That's the way life used to be. For those of you young enough, you don't remember this. And they would just let these people talk. What we now call platforming. We created this whole new thing called platforming. It was not really a word, but it's probably in the dictionary now. Platforming, which is allowing someone to come on your stage. Usually people call it that. Usually people use this word when they highly disagree. They strongly disagree with the existence of that person even being there in the first place. Not what they said necessarily, not what they did necessarily, but the very existence of them being there. Because what happened is Tucker Carlson had a conversation with Mr. NF, whose name I can't say. Somebody can put his name in the comments. He's a young guy who's under the age of 30. He's from Chicago or the suburbs of Chicago. He wears a suit and he has a show that mostly comes on Rumble because he's been banned on all the other platforms. That guy. Fuentes is his last name. That guy. And he has a group of his followers are GROY, what PERS, whatever the hell. I don't even remember what that means. Whatever his fans are. Right, that guy. Tucker Carlson had that guy on his show. And Ben Shapiro, called out Tucker and said that guy's name and said, if you have people like that on your show, then you're, long story short, you're a bad guy and you're responsible for that. Now, why does Ben Shapiro care so much about Mr. NF being on the show? Because Mr. NF has said some things. In general, he's trolling. Mr. NF is similar to Mr. AT, all right, the Romanian guy, the kickboxer who got banned on all the platforms too, whose name I also cannot say on TikTok. He's similar to him in that his viral stuff is him saying things that are very hyperbolic that draws a ton of attention. But when you listen to them in full context in a normal conversation, they don't talk like that all the time. And Mr. NF, that's what he does. But people get so excited over the viral clip that they don't even listen to him talk. Like, I hear something that Mr. AT or Mr. NF says, and I'm like, I know they're being hyperbolic to get attention. And it works because everybody responds to that. And most people don't even bother to get the full context of what they're saying when they're not being hyperbolic, just a normal conversation, because both of them have plenty of them out there, but nobody listens to that because it takes an hour, whereas the clip only takes 30 seconds. Mr. NF has said some things where he has been very supportive of Hitler. He has done this. And again, he says some things that's been incendiary about black people. He says some things that have been incendiary about, what else did he say? Women. And again, it's hyperbole. He speaks in these hyperbolic ways because he knows he's going to get a ton of clicks, and the clips are going to go viral on social media, and everybody's going to be all reactive, and half the people are going to like it, half the people are not going to like it, and the end result is everybody's going to talk about him. Anyway, he built up his name so much, however you think he did it, whether you agree with it or not, he got himself on Tucker Carlson's show. Tucker interviewed this kid probably about 3 weeks ago? Tucker interviews this guy. And Ben Shapiro, again, I keep calling him Ben Netanyahu for a reason. Ben Shapiro really doesn't like the fact that Mr. NF is nothing that Mr. NF said on that particular interview that Ben had a problem with. Is the fact that what Mr. NF has said in the past, again, being hyperbolic, trying to get social media clicks, and he's like 27. So, of course, this is what he's going to try to do. Something that he said back then, Ben is still mad about. And Ben, clearly, if you want to get Ben Shapiro angry, all you got to do is criticize Israel in any way or say anything about Jewish people in any way that is not completely glowing and bowing at their feet. Ben Shapiro gets mad. Candace Owens has put this out there. NF exposed it. Tucker Carlson has exposed it. And Ben will probably tell you himself. He would probably agree to what I just said. This is just who he is. He has a right to be this. But him saying that you shouldn't platform, quote unquote, platform somebody simply because they have some ideas that are bad, wrong, immoral, or whatever words you want to use to just say that their ideas are the scum of the earth, therefore they should not be allowed to speak, is a problematic argument that should not be used. And Ben, you got to put the phone down. You're saying things like this.
Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down!
I come from the sports world. Now, my background is as a professional athlete. And in the sports world, you can't deplatform your opponents. It's not possible. In the sports world, if you say you're that guy or you're that girl or your team says you all are that team, you got to go into the open marketplace, one of the 12 work on your game commandments. And I want to let you know, all the stuff I talk about is documented. All right, these are the work on your game commandments. One of the work on your game commandments, work on your game's the name of my company, by the way, is the marketplace. Commandment number 7, the open marketplace, which means what? If you say you're that person or you have a certain opinion or you believe you're the best player, you got to go into the open marketplace where everybody else is at. And you got to let your position or your skill or your game or your argument stand up against everybody who wants to challenge it. And you got to prove it. And you can't block. If you play for the Chicago Bulls and the LA Lakers have often given you trouble, you can't block the LA Lakers from being on the schedule. You still got to play against them. And if they beat you every time, they beat you. And therefore, you can't be the champion. If you say you're the best fighter and there's somebody across town who says they can beat you in a fight, you can't duck the fight. You got to fight. If you have a good argument and someone wants to challenge your argument, you can't block the person who's challenging your argument. You got to stand up. You got to let your argument stand up against challenge. And if your argument is good, it will stand up to any challenge. That's how the open marketplace works. The challenge I have with Ben Shapiro on this particular point is that he's saying, don't let certain people into the open marketplace because I think they're just bad people. All right, this is some childish nonsense.
Emotional, damn it.
What Ben Shapiro should do is invite Mr. NF on his show and beat him at his own game. All right, if his arguments are solid, Ben, if your arguments are solid, you should bring NF on your show and in the open marketplace, beat down his ideas in front of everybody and make sure that everybody sees how valueless his positions are. But if you're unwilling to do that, Ben, then what does it say? It says much more about you than it says about him. You're trying to say, well, pull the rug out from under him so nobody ever listens to what he has to say. That's nonsense. Same thing people are trying to do to Candace Owens. And same thing they've been trying to do to Mr. NF, same thing they try to do to Mr. AT. It's the reason why these people have big audiences. When you try to shut them down and say, don't listen to anything that they say, all it does is make people go listen to them even more out of sheer human perversity. So Ben Shapiro saying, well, shut this guy down. Don't let him platform anybody. That's nonsense. That's not what I thought. That's what the political left did. I thought it was a political left who was all on to canceling people. Let's cancel this person. Let's not let this person talk. Don't listen to anything this person says. Shut them down. Ban them. Block them. Don't let them use this keyword. I thought this was what the political left did. Now you have somebody on the right, the first speaker besides the CEO of the company, speaking at the biggest conservative event in the country. He comes on and he says that. So which tells me that Turning Point USA must be okay with it. What y'all think? Give me a yes or a no. Y'all think Turning Point USA had an idea that Ben was going to say that and they were okay with it, or you think he surprised everybody, including the leadership at TPUSA when he said what he said? Give me a yes or a no if you think Turning Point knew he was going to say that and they were okay with it. No, you didn't. They didn't know he was going to say it, and he surprised even them when he said it. I think they knew exactly what he was going to say, and he said it. That they want to deplatform. I don't care who you're talking about. I don't care who you're talking about. You be talking about Ted Kaczynski. You be talking about the Unabomber. I don't care. If that person has an audience and people are listening to them, and again, whether you like Mr. NF or not, one thing we cannot deny is the mofo has an audience. There's a bunch of people listening to him. He has a big audience. I have him on. I follow him on Rumble. I've listened to a good number of his videos on Rumble. Not all of them, but a good number. I've listened to some of that Tucker interview. I haven't finished it yet. And he was on Piers Morgan as well. Now, Piers is a different type of interviewer, but I'm going to listen to both of them. Why? Because I want to hear what he has to say. Why do I care what he has to say? Because there's a bunch of people listening to him. Something he's saying is getting people to keep clicking and keep listening. I want to know what he's saying so I can draw my own conclusions. I don't want Ben Shapiro telling me, don't listen to this guy at all. He shouldn't be platformed, not be interviewed by anybody, so that we never know what he's saying. Now we don't understand what it is. If you think he's bad, then at least you should understand who your opponent is. You should want somebody who you respect to interview them so that you can see what this guy really has to say under the lights of a respectful conversation with someone whose intellectual ability you trust. If you think Tucker Carlson's a good interviewer, then you should want Tucker Carlson to interview everybody who you think is terrible so that Tucker can break them down and expose them. That's the world that I come from, folks. That's the open marketplace. The way the open marketplace works is you cannot ban, shut down, block, or deplatform anything just because you don't like it. You have to engage with it and you got to beat it. If it's not good, you got to beat it. And if it's good, then it's going to be obvious. But you can't hide from it and you can't block it. The problem that we have in today's world, and this is specifically, I'm talking specifically to the men, is that we become a very pussified society, a very feminized society, where when you see something that you don't like, now you can just try to block it, cancel it, deplatform it, and not allow it to say anything. That's crazy. I don't agree with this approach. I say you see something you don't like, you go straight to it and you engage it, and let's see who's better. That's how the open marketplace works. That's how it works in sports. You can't just not play a game against another team because you think they're too good or they're going to beat me. Okay, then go play and get beat. But he's saying, well, we got to deplatform these people, and there's a bunch of people in the audience clap for this, which is crazy. So this framed the issue. He tried to say that it's not censorship, but it's accountability. I say he's couching what actually is censorship. He's calling it accountability so he can play the moral high ground on you. That's the moral high ground. Oh, it's accountability. See, when you call it accountability, then it sounds like you're being fair. When you call it censorship, it sounds like exactly what you're doing. Censorship is, I want to block this person from being on certain platforms because I don't ever want to hear what they have to say, and I don't want you to hear what they have to say. That is censorship. That's not accountability. That's censorship. And that's what Ben Shapiro is okay with. And he's okay with it, again, because Mr. NF has said some things that are offensive to Jewish people. I understand. NF has said some things that are offensive to black people. I still listen to what he has to say because I understand what he's doing. I don't take it as a personal insult that he says something about, he says black people in general. I don't take it as a personal insult Because number one, whatever he's saying, the shoe doesn't fit. He's talking about black people and criminals. Well, I'm not a criminal, so the shoe doesn't fit, so I don't take it as offensive. And if I was a criminal, I would say, okay, well, how can I be offended? He ain't lying. What reason do I have to be offended? If he ain't talking about me, I'm not offended. And if he is talking about me, then he's right. What I got to be mad about? So, and Blessed Mama said, because you don't question your word. Yeah, exactly. So the issue with Ben Shapiro is that he takes it personally anytime anybody mentions Israel or Jews. And he takes it as a personal affront to himself. And he has fashioned himself as the police for anybody talking about those two entities, and anybody who doesn't say the things that he wants them to say, he's going to attack them, one, or try to get them deplatformed, canceled, censored, two. That's what Ben Shapiro does. And he does it without actually saying it. He didn't mention either of those two entities during his speech, not one time. But everybody can see exactly what he's saying. And see, that's the trick. That's why I said Ben Shapiro is a very good communicator. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to slide these in without actually saying it. So he's trying to play morality police. So this is deplatforming what he said. And this populist speech maximalist instincts of the MAGA base that Charlie Kirk was all about. Charlie Kirk would go to college campus and said, anybody can debate me on the merits. Debate me on the merits. He said, I'll talk to anybody on the merits. Doesn't matter who it was. Because the better opinion wins. The better argument wins. Ben Shapiro is saying, no, I don't like your argument. Therefore, you're not allowed to enter the contest. That's what Ben Shapiro is saying. Ben Shapiro is saying, okay, we're at the park and all of us kids are playing. Us 5 kids are playing. I don't like you, so you can't even enter the circle and play in the game because you might beat all of us, so you can't even get in the game. That's Ben Shapiro. He's deciding which kids are allowed to play with him at the park. This is pussy. There's no other way to describe it. Actually, excuse me. There are many other ways to describe it. That's the way I'm choosing to describe it. That's what Ben Shapiro is doing. This is feminine energy. Masculine energy says, let's open the doors to everybody and let's see what's what. Ben Shapiro wants to close doors. Now, continuing. He called out Megyn Kelly. He said what Megyn Kelly was doing was cowardly or cowardice, or Megyn Kelly was a coward. Right after he said, Megyn Kelly's my friend. This is what Ben Shapiro said on the stage at the event where Megyn Kelly was also speaking. I think she either spoke that day or the next day. And what I found interesting is that all the people he dissed who were there, their responses were all very light responses. Tucker didn't seem angry. Megyn wasn't angry. And Steve Bannon wasn't angry. They responded, but they didn't seem angry about it. And I found that interesting. Any of you find that interesting? I just found that interesting. So what he said about Megyn Kelly, he said, my friend, Megyn Kelly. And then right after that, he started dissing Megyn Kelly. First of all, Ben, you were on Megyn Kelly's tour. Megyn Kelly did a tour. I told y'all about this. If y'all didn't hear it, did y'all hear Ben Shapiro when he was on Megyn Kelly's tour? Give me a yes or no if y'all heard what he said. I'm going to tell you what he said. Because what he said, he completely ignored at the Turning Point USA speech that he just gave when he mentioned Megyn Kelly. Did y'all hear the speech? So, not the speech, but so on Megyn Kelly's tour, she did a tour in like 10 cities like in November. October, November, she did a 10-city tour. One of the cities she was in, I believe it was Tampa. Ben Shapiro was one of the guests. So she had scheduled guests. So you have like 2 or 3 guests every stop on the tour. She would do a little talk, take some questions. Then she would have her guests on, interview them. Then they would answer questions. So Ben Shapiro was one of the guests. Ben Shapiro is on the stage and he says Candace Owens has gone out and accused Erica Kirk of murdering Charlie Kirk. That's what he said. Ben Shapiro said that on stage at Megyn Kelly's tour. Now, all of us know that Candace Owens never made such an accusation. Candace Owens has said a lot of things. She never said that. Megyn Kelly didn't know whether it was true or not. Megyn Kelly said, I don't listen to Candace's show. I've never heard that before. And Ben Shapiro said, yeah, she said it. She said it. He asserted this. He did not theorize. He didn't ask questions. He asserted Candace Owens accused Erica Kirk of murdering Charlie Kirk. He said that. Y'all can go find it yourselves. It's online. Megyn didn't know. Megyn said, I didn't know that. So he keeps talking, whatever. It ends. The next tour stop, Megyn Kelly, I believe, was in Atlanta. At the beginning of her talk, she said, I want to make sure I clear the air about something because Ben Shapiro at my last tour stop, he said this. I went and did the research. That's not true. Megyn Kelly cleared the air on that. That's all she said. And then she moved on and kept talking. Ben Shapiro came on and just made a complete false accusation, a very incendiary accusation against Candace Owens on Megyn Kelly's platform, clearly didn't apologize for it. Then he goes to Turning Point USA and disses Megyn Kelly in front of the whole audience. This is the kind of guy he is. I don't know Ben Shapiro. Never met the man. But this is what he did. To me, that just shows his character. That's what it looks like to me. To me, it just shows his character. So you're going to come on my platform and tell a complete lie that you knew was a lie. Ben Shapiro's no dummy. He's a smart guy. I believe I read one or two of his books. Can't remember the names of them. Ben Shapiro is no dummy. He knew exactly what he was doing. You knew you were telling a lie. Then you're just going to assert it. And just by asserting it stronger, it makes it seem like it's more true. Knowing that you were lying, you're going to come on my platform and tell a lie. Then you're going to go on another platform that we're both going to speak on, and you're going to diss me in front of the whole audience? Really? That's what you're going to do, Ben? That just tells me what kind of guy he is. And this gives credence to the stuff that Candace Owens said about him on her show on Friday. Again, you can go listen to it, where Candace doesn't even curse on her show, but she cursed when she talked about Ben Shapiro. You're going to find that clip. Or just listen to the whole episode. Candace pulled profanity out when she started talking about Ben Shapiro. This guy, that's slimy behavior. Just off that context alone, that's slimy behavior. Why would you do that? So he said Megyn Kelly is cowardly because and then he strawmanned her, said, oh, she's trying to frame Candace Owens as a mother of young children, and that doesn't absolve you from calling her out for her nonsense. Well, Ben, what about you calling yourself out for lying? What about that? He didn't mention that. He just conveniently ignored the fact that he lied on her stage and then calls her out for being a coward for not calling out Candace Owens. Y'all see the duality here? Kamala Harris' voice, the duality of these two things that Ben Shapiro was doing. So he's trying to establish a principle that friendship should never override moral clarity, even among allies. Okay, fair enough. What about your moral clarity, Ben Shapiro? I don't hear many people talking about this. Anyway, he publicly rebuked another speaker at the same event. That sounds crazy to me. And it was surprising to me that the people he rebuked, the people he dissed, they didn't seem to get to his level of anger and clapping back at what he said. Some people saw that this looked like he was unnecessarily escalating interpersonal conflicts in a moment meant for healing after Charlie Kirk's death. I agree. I thought the whole point of TPUSA right now, or not the point of them, but the point of AmFest right now is for them to, let's calm everything down. We calmed down the Erica Kirk versus Candace and the Candace versus us thing, or at least we look like we calmed it down. This event is supposed to bring everybody together, all the biggest names in the conservative movement and all the biggest fans of the conservative movement. Let's all get together and let's all regroup, refocus, and focus on bringing this group together so that we can make sure that we keep control of Washington, D.C. I thought this was supposed to be about. But then they went and hired Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, I think, and most of you agree with me, he told TPUSA what he was going to say. And they said, okay. He told them, I'm going to diss some people who are also going to be speaking here. Tucker, Steve, Megyn. And they said, okay. And he just went up there and did it. And again, now, if he was one of the middle speakers, I would understand this. But he was the opening speaker. He was the first one after Erica Kirk. And he goes and disses these people. So, and it looked like he was playing out interpersonal conflicts, some issues that he had personally with these people. That was supposed to be, let's all heal and get back on the same page after Charlie Kirk's passing. That's the exact opposite of what he did, which makes me very curious. What the hell is going on over there? Y'all tell me. Now, his broader warning about conspiracism, he framed it as corrosive to conservatism himself. It's not merely a fringe issue, this conspiracism. So anybody throwing out conspiracies. Well, first of all, conspiracies are not always false. Because don't take the jab because it's not going to inoculate you from the virus. Don't wear the cloth mask because cloth mask cannot stop transmission of airborne diseases and viruses. Don't stand 6 feet apart because that's not really going to make that much of a difference once the air is in the air. Air moves around, doesn't stay in a 6 feet bubble. Doesn't make sense to wear the mask while you're sitting down at the restaurant. As soon as you stand up, go to the bathroom, you take the mask off because the virus doesn't go above 3 feet in the air. See, all of those are called conspiracies when people first start saying them. Is this true? So the whole concept of calling something a conspiracy as a way of pulling out the rug from under it as if you shouldn't listen to it makes no sense. So it was a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy when everybody is saying, well, we're not sure if that's true. But then when everybody verifies that it is true, we'll just move on and act like it didn't happen. Dr. Fauci. That's what we're supposed to do. Ben Shapiro on the political right. Again, I thought the political right was the party that said, well, okay, yeah, you can call it a conspiracy if you want. Doesn't mean it's false. I thought this was what the political right was about. I thought the political right was about intellectual rigor, and let's go in an open marketplace of ideas and argue our points. That's what Charlie Kirk did. Charlie Kirk died in the open marketplace arguing with college kids about his perspectives. That's how Charlie Kirk died. The last thing he did was go back and forth with a college kid about whatever they were arguing about. Ben Shapiro gets on Charlie Kirk's stage, the stage that Charlie built, at the event that Charlie built for the company that Charlie built. And one of the first things he says is we should not allow certain people, especially when they have big platforms, to even speak. You must call out Candace Owens or you're wrong. Candace Owens, first of all, Candace Owens, you're wrong. Then Nick, you can't talk to him because you're wrong for platforming him. Megyn Kelly, you're a coward because you won't call out Candace Owens. So wait a minute. What has Candace Owens said that has been proven to be a false conspiracy? We don't know yet. That's the point of the open marketplace of ideas. Maybe some of the stuff she said will be false. We don't know yet. That's the reason why we have an open marketplace of ideas. Let her talk. If she's wrong, the truth will expose her. And if she's right, the truth will expose itself. Truth is self-evident. There's no need to platform or deplatform the truth because the truth is self-evident. It's like trying to deplatform the sun. You can't stop the sun. It's going to exist. And you can't block the sun. That's truth. If Ben Shapiro is standing on truth, there's no need for about 70% of what he said in the speech. Now, critics argue that Shapiro is selectively condemning certain things while excusing or downplaying others, and this is political convenience. Well, of course it is. This is the game that they all play. Ben is playing the game too. He got to play first, but he's still playing the exact same game. So grassroots audience who, when you see establishment figures deciding which narratives are good and which narratives are not good, this is a whole other issue. And Ben Shapiro, we all know where his allegiances lie. Ben Shapiro is a Jewish guy who's a strong supporter of the state of Israel. Everybody knows that, right? All of you know that? Is that news to anybody? Okay. Candace Owens has repeatedly said, I'm just drawing lines here. Candace Owens has repeatedly said that Charlie Kirk was starting to have issues with his donors from over there, the I country. He was starting to have issues with them because they were acting as if, because of how much money they give and how much money they were willing to give, that they could basically control his organization. He didn't like the fact they were trying to control his organization. He was trying to extricate himself and TPUSA from those donors. That's what Candace Owens has said. And on many levels, this has pretty much been confirmed that Charlie was trying to loosen up the relationship between Turning Point USA and the country that starts with an I over there in the Middle East. Everybody follow? Candace Owens has been saying this for months. Ben Shapiro is a strong supporter of that country over there with the I in the Middle East. This is the reason why Ben Shapiro doesn't like Candace Owens. There's no other reason why he doesn't like her. This is the reason why he doesn't like her, just because of this right here. This is the only thing that gets Ben Shapiro really angry is you say something about that country. That's why he doesn't like NF. That's the reason why he dissed Tucker Carlson, because Tucker's been going at that country. The reason why he dissed Megyn Kelly, because Megyn Kelly won't diss Candace, and Candace has been dissing that country. The reason why he hates Candace, because Candace has been dissing that country. It's the only thing to get Ben Shapiro mad. Nothing else you can say about Ben Shapiro to get him mad. Other things he can dismiss. It's just that one, you got him. Now, here's the funny thing. Candace has been saying this is the reason why Ben doesn't like Candace. All right, we already got that established. That's the reason why she got fired from the Daily Wire, too. Charlie was allegedly trying to get away from this country. Charlie's dead now. Let's just say it was Tyler Robinson. Oh, yeah, we got to get to that, too. Ben said something about that guy, too. Charlie's dead now. Now, the first speaker at their conference is Ben Shapiro. Everybody drawing the dots here? Everybody connecting the dots here? See, this is where Candace's arguments have credence. Because Candace said he's trying to get away from that country. He dies. Now, look who they bring out as their first speaker at their conference. A guy who represents that country. As the first speaker at the conference, and then he goes and disses a bunch of other conservatives who may be saying similar things to what Candace says. He goes and disses those people, and all of you agree that Turning Point USA knew what he was going to say, and they okayed it, and they put him as the first speaker. All right, y'all connecting the dots here? All right, does Candace sound so crazy now? I don't think so. She don't sound so crazy now, does she? And she should reiterate this next time her show comes up. And this is the guy that they chose. And this guy is the biggest, as far as having a platform, the biggest supporter of that country in America right now, especially on the conservative side. So this is what he's doing. Now, the crowd's strong applause there was stronger pause on some of the points that he made. It shows that TPUSA's base, those are the people who went to that conference, maybe they have some moral boundaries. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure we can go off audience size, because didn't Kamala Harris have all the audience sizes in 2024? We saw how that turned out. So I'm not sure we can go with that. Now, the speech intensified visible fractures inside the conservative coalition. So right now, the discourse is more going to be about infighting than it is about let's do something to the left. Right now, the political left is real quiet. They ain't got to say nothing. They should just stay quiet. Political left is just say nothing right now. If you're on the political left or you work in the political side of the political left, just stay quiet. Say absolutely nothing right now. All you got to do is let the political right keep fighting, because right now, I said this on X over the weekend, there's so much infighting happening on the political right now. And Ben Shapiro does not seem to be willing to budge from where he's at. And I don't think Tucker or Megan or Candace is budging from where they're at, or Steve Bannon. I've said this every day for the last 2 months. If the midterms were to happen right now, the political left will take both sides of Congress back, and Donald Trump will be impeached for a third time in January 2027. As it stands right now, that's happening. Donald Trump will be impeached for a third time because the Democrats will take Congress back, given the current temperature. This can change, but given the current temperature, Trump is getting impeached for a third time. He knows he's getting impeached for a third time. He wants to win these midterms because that'll help him push his agenda, and it'll go on his record that he was able to maintain control of Congress while still in office, which means the people are approving of what he's doing. I don't think that's going to happen. Right now, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And with all the influencers arguing with each other right now instead of arguing against the left, he doesn't have any help from these people. So what the hell is he going to do? I don't know. And if you got an answer I don't have, I don't know what he's going to do. Now, another thing that Mr. Shapiro said that needs to be pointed out. Ben Shapiro said from stage, he said, all the evidence points that the person who shot Charlie Kirk was a T member, furry, whatever he called them. He made a little statement about who the person was, and the crowd clapped. I'm still trying to understand this. Why do people keep asserting that Tyler Robinson absolutely was the person who did it, as if they're trying to get us to accept it just by repetition? I mean, that's the reason why we have court cases. Didn't Donald Trump get charged with a crime? Didn't Donald Trump get charged with 4 crimes in 2024? Did he not get charged with 4 crimes? Didn't all the evidence point to the fact that he was guilty of all of those crimes? What were people on the political right saying then? What was Ben Shapiro saying then? What was Turning Point USA saying then, when Donald Trump had 4 cases on his head? The hush money case, the fraud case, those is Alvin Bragg and Tish James. He had the RICO case with Fannie Willis. He had the documents case, Mar-a-Lago with Jack Smith. We had those 4 cases on his head. Was Ben Shapiro saying all the evidence we have points to the fact that Donald Trump must have did it because he's the one who's charged? Because that's the same frame he's using for Tyler Robinson. All the evidence says Tyler Robinson. Again, when did we start doing this? You're the person charged with the crime. Oh, yeah, all the evidence says it was him, and everybody's saying it. Erica Kirk saying it. Who else said it? Even Megyn Kelly said it. Ben Shapiro said it. Turning Point USA is saying it. Why are people consistently insisting that we accept that this guy who was charged must have been the one who did it? Isn't that the reason why we have a court system? Isn't that the reason why we have a judicial process? Everyone gets their day in court. You are innocent until proven guilty. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, won't be appointed for you. Why is everybody insisting that this guy did it and insisting that nobody consider any other possibilities? Why are they insisting on this? Charlie Kirk's dead either way. Why does it matter who did it? If it was done by some random, why does it matter? Again, this gives credence to everything Candace has been saying. I don't know if y'all look at things the way I look at things. The way I look at it is, again, the reason, why do you keep telling me that I must accept this? Let me figure it out on my own, because truth is self-evident, folks. I said this earlier. Truth is self-evident. If what you're saying is the truth, then the truth will reveal itself. You don't have to keep insisting to me that the truth is the truth. Just let me see it for myself. Trust my intellect, trust my intelligence that I will come to see things the same way you see them if we're both smart. And the truth is the truth. I can't avoid the truth if it's actually true. But they're insisting that I accept their line of reasoning on this, which makes me curious. You know what curious people do? Candace Owens' voice. Ask questions. This is what makes this whole thing problematic. And another thing Ben Shapiro said from the stage, he said, the side that I'm on is the side of, he said, there's only one right side. I'm paraphrasing what he said here. He said, there's only one right side to be on, and that's the side of Erica. That's what he said. And the crowd cheered for that. I don't like that frame. Even if I'm a TPUSA evangelist, which I'm not, but even if I was, even if I had a front row seat at AmFest, I don't like that frame. He said, the only side I'm on is the moral side, and that's the side of Erica. What? Wait, say that again, Ben? The moral side is the side of Erica, so whatever Erica Kirk says is the moral side? That's news to me. Did y'all hear him say that? That's news to me, that whatever Erica thinks is the moral side. Oh, okay. When did that become a thing? I never heard that before. That the side of any individual person is the side of morality, and therefore anybody who goes against that side, you're going against morality itself. All right, that's what Ben Shapiro said from the stage. And again, here's their first speaker. They knew what he was going to say. All right, y'all agreed that they knew what he was going to say. This is what he came out with. Sounds crazy to me. I don't know. I don't know if y'all see what I'm seeing. All of these reasons are why I was not a fan of what Ben Shapiro said from the stage. This don't platform people. He borrowed that idea from the political left. I'm not a fan. The moral side is the side of Erica Kirk. So whatever she says, she clearly walks on water and turns water into wine. I completely disagree with that. Whatever she says, you can't possibly go against. No. He is clearly doing his thing for the country he represents and the religion he represents, which is fine. If you want to represent, if that's what you're about, claim it. At the same time, don't go to a conservative event in the United States of America and tell us that anybody who goes against that country is somehow wrong. What the hell does that country got to do with us? What the hell does that religion got to do with us? We have freedom of religion in the United States of America. No one has to support your religion if they don't want to. They can bash it if they want to, just like Mr. Nick. He can bash it if he wants to. Free speech. So all of these reasons that I've laid out here why I'm really not a fan of what Mr. Shapiro did on stage last week. Let's get into the conversation here. And we'll go about 20 minutes here for comments here, folks. So I can't read every single comment, but I'm going to go through most of them. Girlie said, Rob should have watched Dave Chappelle's surprise drop this past weekend. Was that a surprise? I didn't know Dave Chappelle's thing was a surprise. I heard a little clip of Dave Chappelle's his jokes about, who was he talking about? He was joking about Charlie Kirk. The little clip that I saw, that wasn't even funny. Like it wasn't really anything funny about it. And it was a straw man, too much of a straw man to be funny. It was a mascot speaking about sensitive subjects, unveiling irony, making it hilarious. I got to listen to it. Girlie Samurai. What I saw, the clip that I saw from that Dave Chappelle thing when he was talking about Charlie Kirk, that wasn't really funny. If it was funny, I'll laugh at it. The whole point of comedy, folks, is you take a subject that people are taking serious and afraid to laugh at, and then you make jokes about it so that people can release the tension and laugh at something that they aren't allowed, quote unquote, to laugh about. Dave Chappelle generally does a good job of that, but making jokes about Charlie Kirk 3 months later, really? I don't know. It just didn't hit. It didn't hit as far as I was concerned. And then he said Charlie was, what he was saying? Oh, they were saying people were comparing Charlie Kirk to Martin Luther King. I don't think anybody was actually doing that. That's a straw man. And then Charlie Kirk is a podcast where he says negative stuff just to get clicks. That's not what Charlie Kirk was doing. That's another straw man. So it was like, it was a little bit too much of a reach for me, a little bit too watered down. And Dave, he talks about these social topics, but that clip that I saw, I'm going to listen to the whole thing, the whole special that Dave did. But that one, it just didn't hit for me. The one he did where he was talking about the LGBTQ a couple of years ago, that one was good because that was the time it was very tense around that subject and he brought some levity to it. This one is not quite that. But I listened to the whole thing, see what he said. Girlie Samurai, yes. Yeah, I know what they're called. I just couldn't say it because I think their name is banned on TikTok. That's why I didn't say it. Girlie said, BS is an antithesis to Charlie Kirk's Prove Me Wrong public debate model. Reminds me of somebody from Harry Potter. I didn't read Harry Potter. Rod Randolph said he paid good money to speak. Yeah, I heard. That's what I heard. The real say he turned it into the Source Awards. Most people wouldn't know what that means, but I know what you mean. The real says Shapiro loves Israel so much he should move there instead of trying to be an influencer in America. Well, a lot of people have said that, so a lot of people agree with that. Melly said, love Ben's speech and Ali Best's speech, and they nailed it. People need to be called out, and those people need to be called out. I didn't hear Ali Best's whole speech, but I've heard several clips from her podcast. The problem I have with Ali Best Stuckey is similar to the one with Ben Shapiro, just on a parallel frames. Ali Best Stuckey uses the Bible as a shield for her personal opinions. I'm not a fan of that. If you have a personal opinion, stand on your opinion. Don't use the Bible as a shield to make your opinion unfalsifiable or to make your point unchallengeable. Ali Best Stuckey tends to do that. She, on X, even on X, I've seen many engagements, and I've responded to her on X multiple times, where she will make some argument and someone will offer a logical pushback to her argument, and she will say, well, your frame is just not biblical, and if you don't understand a biblical frame, then that's okay. I'm like, bitch, what? So you're just saying any opinion you put out there must be biblical, and therefore anybody who challenges you just doesn't understand the Bible as well as you, therefore they can't challenge you, and therefore you won't engage. That's nonsense. Now, she's a female, so I'll offer her a little bit of grace, but I'm not a fan that she does that often. And she'll do it in her own comments. She'll be in her own comments saying this. Well, hey, my approach is biblical and yours is not biblical. Therefore, that's why we disagree. No, we disagree because your approach is not logical. But that's what she does. And I've seen her do it more than once. But I'm going to listen to the whole speech that she gave as well. Girl, said the clips are not edited well. Clips of who? Whose clips you talking about? Ali Beth? I've seen her on her profile and her comments, her responding to other people commenting on her stuff is what I've seen her doing that. Those are not clips. She stands on that I'm biblical and clearly you're not, therefore we disagree. I don't see things that way. All right, so I'm over on TikTok. We got about 15 minutes here for comments, folks. So moderators, you see anything good, just put it in the pinned comments and I'll address it. Thank you for getting to 100K likes early. Echoes 9711 said TikTok isn't First Amendment friendly. Well, TikTok's not a United States based company, so I understand. I don't have a problem with that. And he said at home tapping, LOL. Thank you to the people at home tapping. Ellen said my friend calls him Benjamin. Yeah. Is he not? That would be news to me. So I think he is though. Morning Tina. Rick Vagroski, thanks for the follow. Keep on living for life. Are you trying to get the soundboard? But you got to come with something that's at least topic specific. I can't give you the soundboard for that. You're trying to bring Trump into the conversation, but you got to come with something. You got to at least try. You got to at least put some effort into it. KDK, thanks for the follow. Alan said, what a great idea. Sheila said, exactly. I heard this morning that The View only had 2 conservative people on their show all year. Yeah, because the women on that show can't emotionally deal with somebody coming on there who is going to actively and openly disagree with them and push back on anything that they say. Someone who has the argumentation skills to actually engage with them. I heard Donald Trump Jr. on there several years ago when he wrote a book, and he handled them very well. But that was before they got worse since then. This was like probably 2020, maybe 5 years. Whenever Trump Jr. put out a book. Suzanne said, absolutely. Thanks, Fan Club, for unlocking the first days of Club Quest. Joy May said, Charlie gave them platforms. But you don't actually give anybody a platform. Everybody has a platform. You got a social media account, you have a platform. Now, some people have bigger platforms than others. But this whole concept of platforming, I don't even like the idea because everybody has a platform. And if you believe that your ideas are good and that's how you built your audience, that's why you have a big platform, you should be willing to engage with whoever on your platform. And if you think their ideas are bad, then expose them. Use your platform to expose them. The quicker they get exposed, the quicker they go away. If they're no good. But if you don't want to have them on your platform because you say, I don't want to platform someone who has bad ideas, let's just say, for lack of a better term, that's nonsense. That's you dodging them. That's you ducking and dodging the smoke. If you believe you know what you're talking about, then you should have no problem dealing with anybody else who thinks that you are wrong. This is the reason why even on here, I tell moderators, don't block anybody who's disagreeing with me. Let them talk. Because if they have a good point, I'll give them credit. And if their point's nonsense, then we fire up the soundboard. That's how it works. Clifford Ferguson say they're further trying to drive a wedge between people. They want us to hate each other. I hope not. Colton Wade said, are you suggesting host platform and feed the trolls? Or it depends on what you call a troll. So your question, I need more clarity on what you mean by that, Colton Wade. When you call somebody a troll, what exactly does that mean? What I consider to be a troll is a person who comes in the comments and they say incendiary things on purpose just to get a reaction. Now, these days, what people do, what some people are calling being a troll, I call being hyperbolic. So when Nick blew up, a lot of things he was saying seemed troll-ish, but if you listen to the full context of what he was saying, when he would talk about it and when he would calm down off the trolling and actually talk about it, there were legitimate arguments behind the things that he was saying. Now, he may stretch it a little bit. He may be pulling things out of context a little bit, but who doesn't? Everybody does it. He would do it for what worked for his audience and what worked for his argument. That's why you have a full-on conversation with him, like Piers Morgan did, like Candace Owens had one, but didn't go so great, and Tucker Carlson did. You have a full conversation with him, and you control the conversation because it's your show. So ask him questions, let him answer. Find out what he really believes, and in those conversations, he wasn't being hyperbolic and he wasn't trolling. He was just talking. That's why you have conversations with people. This is why Phil Donahue and Oprah Winfrey used to have people on their shows who called themselves, I am a white supremacist. They would have them on their show and ask them questions to find out, why do you believe that? Why are you saying that? Where are you at? What do you think about this? How you feel about this? There'd be black people in the audience who would ask them questions and they would respond, and there would be an open dialogue. That's the way it's supposed to be. That is how the marketplace of ideas works. So this whole concept of even the question that you're asking here, Colson, is a straw man question. Strawberry cheesecake. That host platform and feed the troll. So first of all, you're not feeding the troll. You are offering them a space, an open marketplace space to prove the validity of their ideas. That is how the open marketplace of ideas works. You can't block somebody from being in a marketplace, in an open marketplace. If it's literally an open marketplace, you can't block anybody. I just walked past a farmer's market the other day. If anybody wants to sell something at that farmer's market, all you got to do is set up a table. Maybe you might have to pay a fee, and you set up your table. And if you don't sell shit, then that's the marketplace letting you know that nobody's interested in your products. But don't block me from going and selling things just because 3 of the other sellers think that I'm going to outsell them and that my cookies and cupcakes are going to cause all the customers to come to me, so therefore they can't make any sales. So don't let Dre set up a table because we want to have a chance to make some money. That's bullshit. That's not how the open marketplace works. So Colton, if we're talking about the open marketplace, there is no such thing as platforming, and there's no such thing as a troll. If someone's no good, the marketplace will tell you that you're no good. You don't let the gatekeepers decide who's good and who's not good in an open marketplace. That's not the way it works.
Stop it. Get some help.
Wifey Tip says, no, he can say what he wants. Candace starts, I don't feel sorry for her one bit. No, I don't feel sorry for Candace. Feel sorry for her for what? She's got more audience than TPUSA has right now, even more than Ben Shapiro has. So there's nothing to feel sorry about. And yes, he can say what he wants. Why can he say what he wants, Wifey Tips? Because this is the open marketplace. Candace can say what she wants to. And she responded to what he said. And if they both put out a show tomorrow, who has more of the marketplace paying attention? The answer is Candace Owens. So there's nothing to feel sorry about. Christy said, I'm disappointed in TPUSA, Ben losing his arguments about Israel. Well, he didn't even make one. That's the whole thing. Viv Free said, adults are childish with egos. Well, that is true. Adults are kids who just got taller, is what they like to say. Suzanne said, you just defined free speech. Yes, that's what the open marketplace is. Free speech. Carla, good morning. Colton said, TT and YouTube will block that interview anyway if you platform FN or AT. No, not necessarily. They've been on interviews on people's platforms that are still on YouTube. There's a bunch of them out there. Not as much as NF, but AT's got a bunch of interviews. Tony said, you're so correct. That way of thinking will let us win the race to last place, pretty much. Well, right now, the political right is losing. Tony said, all other countries will do what is only best for their own country. When will we get it? Well, the United States has fashioned ourselves as a country as the police of the whole world. Katie says, Ben realized he can pack up and move over there. I'm sure he's addressed that question. I'm sure we're not the first people to say something like that about him. So I don't know what his answer is. Murder Creek Cake says, almost like WWE, friends behind closed doors battle each other on stage. Maybe. I just don't like the fact that he called Megyn Kelly his friend and then 2 seconds later started dissing her on the stage in front of all those people. When he was on her platform, he didn't diss her on her platform, but he waits till he gets there and he starts dissing her. I don't like that. It's just slimy behavior. It's not manly. It's not honorable behavior to do that. If you really had an issue with me, then you call me and you say, hey, this is my issue I got with you, and we address it on the phone. And if I'm going to diss you, then I could call you up front and say, yo, we both speaking at AmFest. I'm gonna say something about you because you said this and I feel this way. I'm gonna say this. I'm just letting you know so that when it happens, it's not a surprise. You're not blindsided by it. And the other person can respect that. And if somebody did it to me, I say, okay, I respect the fact that you told me. All right, I'm gonna respond back to you when I get on stage, and it can be all part of the game. But don't just blindly diss me when you just were on my stage at my event. That's slimy behavior. That's not manly. Steve Bowles said, gee, people lie. It's like Democrats and Biden spokeswoman said that Biden was fine mentally. Well, Steve, nice try, but right now the political right has an issue. All right, and Joe Biden is not going to take us off that issue. Maggie said, I'm happy to see them eating their own. Well, I'm assuming you're on the left. Well, that's what's happening. So if you're happy, I get it. Doctor in Iowa said, which Steve did Ben Shapiro did? Steve Bannon. He did Steve Bannon. L. Danny says, too much of a coward to tell TPUSA what he was going to say. I think they asked him what he was going to say. I think he told them. I think they said okay. And also, I heard Andrew Colvett, who, what is he, the spokesperson for TPUSA? What's his official job? Colvett. Colvett had a video that he was being interviewed, like probably about 5 days ago. And I was going to talk about this, but it got bumped down on my list. He said that Turning Point USA is not going to be tolerating any negative talk about the state of Israel. He said that out of his own mouth. That was about a week ago. Andrew Colvett, who is, for the most part, the strongest voice they have over there besides Erica. Ellen said Erica's ex-boyfriend is now at Turning Point. I didn't know that to be true. Is that true? You eat McGee, thanks for the follow. Katie said conspiracies have been right. Yeah, I get it. Christy said the same thing. Courtney, thanks for the follow. Thanks for the new followers. Maggie said, all right, when Trump and his whole family got the jab. Well, Trump is the president. Both Trump and Biden said, get the jab, you won't get the virus. They both said that. Barbie said, I believe it's the first time we reached over 100K in the first hour. Awesome. Well, great. I don't think it's the first time, but it's maybe the most obvious time. So I appreciate it either way. Sheila said she was wrong about the Egyptian planes following Erica. How do we know? How do you know that she was wrong about it? Michelle, good morning. About 10 minutes here, everybody. Jaquinto said they were singing a whole different tune then. Yeah, it's very true. Katie said because the real person wanted to all go away like JFK. That's what it looks like it could possibly be the truth of what that looks like. It could be the reality of the situation. That's why I'm saying, why are people insisting that everybody accept that is this guy who hasn't even been gone to court yet? That's the part that makes me curious. Why don't we just let it play out? RBO said Erica comes across as shady. I've heard people saying that, but you got to give me some reasons. Just calling a person shady is not a good enough reason. Caleb said that's actually a crazy thing to say. What? What did I say that was crazy? Sheila said Erica has information that we don't have. I would trust her before Candace. No, she doesn't, Sheila. That's the issue. Candace did a whole episode explaining Erica doesn't have any information. Candace has more information than Erica has. Only thing Erica has that other people don't have is that she gets to hear from the coroner first. What do they call it? The prosecution in the state of Utah does not have to share any information with Erica Kirk because she is not a witness in this case at all. So no, she doesn't have any information. Marky said, what do I think about Candace and Charlie's wife? Charlie's wife being Erica Kirk. Have you been listening? Sterling Storm says, seems like they found a way to combine church and state, and I'm a Christian. Yeah, there's supposed to be a separation. Well, listen, there's no church. I don't think Jewish people go to church. So Ben Shapiro is not a Christian. The party mama said that's an absolute lie. They compared him to Martin Luther King. Who's they? So that's why I said it's a straw man, party mama. You can find any small group of people who were saying anything and then make a joke about it. That's what Dave Chappelle did. He said they were comparing him to Martin Luther King. I wasn't comparing him to Martin Luther King. I don't think Turning Point USA was calling him Martin Luther King. Who's they? Just some random people on the internet. So Dave Chappelle took that and made it they and then made a joke about it. I say, what I say about that is I get it. But at the same time, I don't think it's funny because I find jokes funny when they're based in actual reality. When you got to make something up to make a joke out of it, then it's not funny to me. I'm not a big fan of stand-up comedy as it is, but if your stand-up is based in something that's real that I can actually laugh at, like, for example, he made a joke in one of his lives. I think it was either not lives, but specials. It was either the last one or one before that. He said, I heard that Chris Brown beat up Rihanna. And then I said, well, what did she do? And then the crowd laughed, and women didn't laugh at that because women don't like laughing at domestic abuse jokes, but I laugh at that because that's a funny joke. Because based in reality, that Chris Brown did beat up Rihanna, and we saw the pictures, and he said, "What did she do?" Which is not something you would normally say to something like that. You would normally say, like, "Damn, that's messed up," and then he turned it into a joke. That's funny because he took the tension and he released the tension by making a joke about it. But just coming up with something that a few random people said and then trying to make a joke out of that is just not funny to me. And listen, I have a sense of humor that I could tell you all some jokes that are not safe for work. So I'm open to jokes, but they got to be actually good. Party Mama said, taking out of context, taking out of concept, that's what everybody said. What do you mean? Sterling said, sounds like he did some minor research with Mr. Mark big time. You talking about Dave Chappelle? RBO said, what about the man that saw Erica at the military base 2 days? Well, he said she looked like Erica. He didn't confirm it actually was her, but I know what you're saying, RBO. I saw that what was the guy's name? Mitch, that Candace interviewed. He said, I noticed the blue eyes. And then he said, I saw a picture of Erica Kirk when she was younger and said, those eyes, like I noticed those same eyes. So how will we ever know? I don't think we'll ever know. That's the issue. Sterling Storms, thanks for the follow. K Clark, TikTok, Resist said, can you explain on giving more grace because she's female? Who was I talking about when I said that? I remember saying it. I can't remember who I was talking about. You tell me who I was referring to, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. But generally what I mean when I say give more grace because they're females, when a person uses an appeal to emotion or an appeal to emotion or use their emotions as a shield, then I give more grace when a woman does it and when a man does it. Because my expectation of a man is to have more control over his emotions than I expect a woman to, as a general point. Judy, thanks for the follow. Miriam, thank you for you're awesome. Rel, Val, Just a Gal, and Jack, thanks for the follow. Tez NY said, that's what baffles me most, that is if these men acting like this and throwing shade at women. Well, it's Ben Shapiro. Reagan said, you're talking about Allie Beth. Yeah, Allie Beth Stuckey. Yeah, so she uses the Bible. She doesn't use emotion. She uses the Bible. So Allie Beth Stuckey makes her arguments, and she always frames her arguments as, I'm getting this from the Bible. And then if anybody pushes back against her, she says, well, clearly, you just are not framing your pushback around the Bible the way I'm framing my argument around the Bible. Therefore, it's okay for us to agree to disagree because clearly you're just not as biblically sound as I am. Your argument is not as biblically sound as mine. She doesn't say it in so many words, but that's what she alludes to. She does it with a smile on her face and with a soft voice, but it's bullshit what she's doing. She's using the Bible as a shield for her personal opinions. And I'm not a fan of that. Just as Ben Shapiro uses he uses the Jewish as victim frame as a shield for his personal opinions of anybody who says anything that he doesn't like that may be alluding to the state of Israel or the Jewish people in general. Even if they actually say something incendiary like Mr. Nick. Mike said, independents have always decided the elections. I don't know about that, Mike. I think what decides an election is getting people to actually show up and vote. There are not enough independents to make the decision necessarily. It's getting all the Democrats to actually go vote Democrat and getting the Republicans to actually go vote Republicans. There are many more of them than there are independents. Sheila said it was debunked this morning. She was wrong 70% of the time. It was on the news. I didn't see it, so I'll look into that. Actually, I'll wait till she talks about it. I'm not going to look into it. I'm lying. Jason said, love your content. Watch you every day. Thank you. Truth be told said, did I already talk about Nicki Minaj? No, I didn't talk about it. I saw the clips of her being at AmFest, and I don't really think that it's going to move the needle much. I mean, it's cool because she's a famous rapper and all that, but who the fuck cares what Nicki Minaj has to say? I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. J Rocker said, good morning. Vacation days throw me off. Shout out to everybody on vacation. K Clark said, the lady talking about religion on her post. Yeah, that's Allie Beth. Yeah, I'm not a fan of her approach. J Rocker said, what was the topic? We're talking about Ben Shapiro's speech at AmFest. Did you see it? All right, a couple more minutes, folks, here, and then we'll wrap this up. Benjamin Williams said, no, that's not for me. Much thanks for the follow. Caleb said, when I said it's crazy things, I was talking about Ben saying the moral side is Erica. Oh, yes, that is a crazy thing to say. Ben Shapiro said, I'm on the side of morality, and that's the side of Erica. Which is what? Erica Kirk is now, she's the representative of morality? That's news to me. I didn't know that. The frame he's trying to create there is nobody can question anything Turning Point does, and Erica's the head of Turning Point. And the reason why, the line that I'm drawing here, I'm going to go into put my Candace Owens hat on here. He's saying, Ben Shapiro saying, No one can question anything Erica does, and Erica is morality. Same way Dr. Fauci said, I am science. Same thing. And why is Ben Shapiro saying that? Because it's clear, it looks like, from context clues. Number one, Andrew Colbert's statement last week that we will not tolerate anybody at TPUSA saying anything negative about the state of Israel. Andrew Colbert said that out of his mouth on an interview. And Ben Shapiro clearly is a representative and a defendant of the state of Israel, a staunch defendant of the state of Israel. And he is the first speaker that they decided to book for their event. He's the one up there on that stage. I think they knew what he was going to say. They let him go up there and say it, dissing other people who they also had on their stages. And he's saying nobody can diss Erica because I believe, this is the Candace Owens theory, just asking questions, that Turning Point USA, after Charlie passed, they decided instead of extricating themselves from dealing with the state of Israel, those donors, they decided to go deeper into that relationship and take more money from the state of Israel. And that's why we've seen everything that we've seen. People over there, TPUSA, trying to shut down Candace, trying to shut her up, not really addressing the things that she said, strawmanning her arguments. Erica Kirk not saying anything about any of this. Charlie Kirk, who wanted to get away from them, now he's dead. Now his right-hand guy is saying we're not going to have anybody dissing them at all. Then Ben Shapiro, who is strong representative of the state of Israel, dissing Megyn Kelly for not dissing Candace, who's been dissing Israel, dissing Tucker Carlson, who's been dissing Israel, going at NF, who made some hyperbolic statements about Jewish people. This all adds up to me. All right, this is just a theory. I'm just asking questions. Candace Owens' voice makes sense now. Candace Owens doesn't sound so crazy to me today. She don't sound crazy to me now. Ben Shapiro actually just confirmed more strongly, not confirmed as if it's 100% fact, but made a more strong case for what Candace Owens has been saying regarding that country over there in the Middle East. It starts with the letter I than anything Candace said for the last 90 days. Ben Shapiro confirmed it more strongly in 20 minutes than Candace did in 90 days. That's what I think. But y'all tell me what y'all think. So I'm wrapping this up in a second, folks. Lori said, will you be on Wednesday or Thursday? I'll be on tomorrow and Wednesday. We're off Thursday, back Friday. So the only day we're going to miss is Thursday. Only day we're missing is Thursday this week. So we'll be here every day this week except Thursday. Christmas Day will be off. We'll be back the day after. All right, so I'm going to listen to Dave Chappelle. I got to listen to Allie Beth Stuckey's speech. I got to listen to all of Tucker, all of Steve Bannon. I heard Megyn Kelly's. Anybody else at AmFest that I really should listen to? We'll wrap this up on this. Anybody else who spoke at AmFest, so I should really listen to what they said. Really listen to their speech. So I got to look up Allie Beth Stuckey's speech and hear what the hell she said. Who else should I listen to who was at AmFest, folks? So I got to hear Allie Beth Stuckey, Turning Point. She only spoke for 10 minutes. All right, so I'm going to listen to Allie Beth Stuckey. Who else spoke that I got to listen to? I got to hear Steve Bannon. Why is Steve Bannon always wearing a coat? Anybody know why Steve Bannon is always wearing a coat? I used to have a coach. I remember when I played in Montenegro. My coach would always have a coat on. Why is Steve Bannon always wearing a coat? Oh, Nicki Minaj. Yeah, I got to hear Nicki Minaj. I don't think Nicki Minaj said anything interesting, but I'll listen to it. I don't really care what a rapper has to say at a political event. Same way I didn't want to hear fucking Beyonce at Kamala Harris. I don't care what Nicki Minaj has to say. Nicki Minaj is not driving votes for the conservative party. So any of you who's on the right, Nicki Minaj ain't going to do a damn thing for you. Brandon Tatum spoke. All right, I'll listen to Brandon Tatum. Was it any good what he said? The Life and Times, did he say anything useful? But I'll listen to what he said, Brandon Tatum. Let me see how long his speech was. Brandon Tatum. I don't see the full speech. His full speech is not up here. Actually, let me look up AmFest. Yeah, I don't know why they had Nicki Minaj there. What the hell is she gonna do? She ain't getting y'all no votes. All right, so any of you who's MAGA or conservative, don't get excited about Nicki Minaj. All right? Get excited about Brandon Tatum. You want to get excited about a black person. Nicki Minaj ain't driving nobody to vote. She ain't getting no white people to go vote. She ain't getting no black people to go vote. She's Cardi B. That's who she is. All right, I'll listen to all those that I said I was going to listen to. So we're wrapping this up, folks. We will be here every day this week except Thursday. So I'll be here tomorrow, be here Wednesday. We'll be off Thursday. Merry Christmas. We'll be back on Friday. And by the way, if you are an American, you've been celebrating Christmas, don't let anybody bully you into saying happy holidays instead of saying Merry Christmas. It hasn't fucking balls. It's Christmas. Merry Christmas. All right, to everybody who is going to be celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas. People don't want to say Christmas anymore because it's a holiday. Fuck out of here. Anyway. Everybody have a great Monday. I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. We do these Monday through Friday, usually except the business days. I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. We're usually done by 9:30. It is 9:35. I'm over. Merry Christmas to everybody out there, but we're not done. We'll be back tomorrow. Everybody have a great day. We out.